afternoon, my conscious co-creators. Welcome to another edition of the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. I am very, very pleased that you are here with me today. Oh, we've got a real special show in store for you today. I'm very excited and thrilled. We've got a wonderful guest in studio with us today. As I would like to welcome to our show today, my guest, Dr. Rachel Harris, PhD. She's a psychologist and author of the book, Listening to Ayahuasca, New Hope for Depression, Addiction, PTSD, and Anxiety. And let me hold it up to the Facebook live stream real quick. This is the book. It's a wonderful book. Get it. She was in private practice for 35 years, maybe more by now, working with people interested in psycho-spiritual development. During a decade of working in research, she received a National Institute of Health's New Investigators Award and published more than 40 scientific studies in peer-reviewed journals. She has also consulted Fortune 500 companies as well as the United Nations. This woman is no slouch. Now, as a result of her own experience with ayahuasca, Dr. Rachel Harris was inspired to research how this medicine was being used in North America in the largest study of its kind to date. Listening to Ayahuasca describes her findings, including miracle cures of depression and addiction, therapeutic breakthroughs, spiritual revelations, and challenging, and even what we'd call the bad trips. So, Dr. Harris, welcome to the Conscious Consultant Hour.
Thank you so much, Sam.
I'm really happy that we were able to arrange this to get you in studio while you're passing through New York City.
Yes, correct.
It's always great to have it. Now, I know your daughter's in the city. Are you originally from this area, or?
No. Princeton.
From Princeton. Oh, yeah. Not that far away.
No,
we'll give it to you. So I always like to start off giving my audience talking about just a little bit of your background. So you've been a therapist for many, many years. And as our audience know, therapists are very close to our heart because my wife is a psychotherapist. Right. And we do EMDR and other forms of CBT and other forms of therapy here in the center. But your work seems to have always had a very spiritual lean to it, no?
Yes, that's correct.
Is there something that kind of...
How did that happen?
Yeah, like what put you on that initial path? Because there are lots of therapists out there who aren't necessarily that spiritual. Though these days it's getting more rare.
Well, when I graduated from college, I went to Esalen Institute in their residential program. And it was the third residential program they tried to run. It was the only one that actually went the full 6 months.
Oh, wow.
And so I considered that graduate school. I mean, trust me, nobody else did. Yeah. But this was 1968. This was a really long time ago. And that residential program focused on meditation and body work.
Oh, interesting.
So that, for me, has always been a foundation. Okay. Then I had to go to graduate school after that. Right. And the theory, Esalen was experimenting with how to run a residential program. There were 11 handpicked people, and we spent 40 or 50 hours a week together, and we worked with the top people at that time.
Oh, wow.
And
any names that people would recognize today?
I don't even want to go into it.
Okay. All right. No worries.
It was everybody who was anybody in 1968. And so that, for me, was a foundation. But after that, and I stayed at Esalen, of course, for a couple of years working. But after that, I had to go to graduate school.
Right.
And so with that foundation, I switched to research in graduate school because it seemed a safer bet. The graduate schools had not caught up to the level of psychotherapy that Esalen was experimenting with.
I bet.
So I was better off on a research track, and that's how I spent a decade in a research office and did all that work.
Okay. And so I guess you started meditating at that time.
And before.
Even before that. Wow.
I'd been searching. I'd had experience as a child and growing up, and so I'd already been on a path. That's how I ended up at Esalen at age 21.
Okay.
I had really been searching.
So your roots go like really into childhood.
Yeah.
And anything you'd care to share, or no? We can move on.
Well, I think, it's Charlie Tart, the psychologist who's done a lot of parapsychological work. He has a website where he's been asking scientists for their childhood peak experiences. And many, many scientists have peak. many people have peak experiences, and especially from childhood.
Okay.
But I sort of pursued those experiences. I found them very meaningful and wanted to know more about them.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, so let's move on, and we'll just start to touch upon our main topic today, which is your book, Listening to Ayahuasca. How did you come to decide to focus on this particular plant medicine, as it's known, and why did you decide to do all this research around it?
Yeah, I can't claim any of those decisions, so I can explain how it evolved.
Okay.
But you'll see pretty soon I was not exactly in charge of anything.
Okay.
And so what happened is, once my daughter was finished her graduate school and I was feeling quite free, I was living in Princeton, New Jersey, and I was searching. This is not part of a spiritual search. I was looking for a beach vacation. It was February. I thought, well, this makes perfect sense.
Funny how those things work.
Yeah. So I had set up a vacation at a retreat center that I thought sounded very exotic in Costa Rica, between the rainforest and the Pacific Ocean. And 2 days before I was scheduled to leave, I got a phone call from the person who was arranging it. And she said, well, do you want to participate in the ceremonies? And I brilliantly said, what ceremonies? I missed all the key words in the descriptions. I didn't get
wait a minute. So you booked this vacation.
I booked it. I had no idea.
2 days before you're going down to Costa Rica, and then they call you up and say, oh, are you participating in the ceremonies?
Right.
And this was
I had no clue.
Right over your head.
No clue what they're talking about. So I immediately, I said, let me call you back. And I had Ralph Metzner's book on ayahuasca, the first edition of it. So this is way back. And, I read through all the personal reports, all the first-person reports, and I was just ready. I had had psychedelic experiences in the 60s. Okay. And then I was a householder raising a daughter, and now I was fairly free. I was ready.
Yeah, interesting. So it's kind of funny how, like, you didn't even realize what you were putting yourself in the middle of. No,
so I did no screening whatsoever, which is not, I really say to audiences, don't do as I do, do as I say. I didn't know.
Right. Okay, great. All right, so wonderful. We're laying the foundation. We're going to take our first break, and when we come back, let's talk about then, like, what happened in Costa Rica and how this whole thing evolved. All right. So everybody, please stay tuned. You're listening to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. My guest this hour is Dr. Rachel Harris, author of the book Listening to Ayahuasca, and we'll be right back.